At least 6 people were killed and 60 injured in sniper fire against peaceful demonstrators in the Lebanese capital Beirut on Thursday. Venezuelan authorities denounced a new attack against the national power grid that led to an outage across much of the capital, Caracas. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced this Thursday that an agreement was reached with Cuba to acquire its Abdala vaccine against COVID-19. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the south. I'm Katrina Goss. Lebanese authorities have arrested 8 suspects linked to an attack on Thursday featuring sniper fire against peaceful demonstrators in Beirut, which left at least 6 dead and about 60 injured. According to media outlet Al Mayadeen, the Lebanese Army Commando reinforced its deployment in the area to contain the situation and arrested 1 sniper at the scene who was found in one of the buildings from where the shooting was heard. Al Mayadeen's Beirut bureau chief stated that at least 4 gunmen fired from a building. She added that the army is searching for several suspects in the shooting. The Lebanese army issued a statement on the events, explaining that protesters were exposed to bursts of gunfire as they made their way through the city's streets. Troops rushed to cordon off the area and forces were deployed across nearby neighborhoods. And in a joint statement, the Lebanese resistance and the Amal movement condemned the attack. The text confirmed that participants in the peaceful march in front of the Palace of Justice were targeted by snipers posted on the rooftops of nearby buildings, and also said that the shots were aimed at the protesters' heads. They further stated that the attack by organised armed groups is aimed at dragging Lebanon into an intentional internal conflict, and that what happened is the responsibility of those who are concealing the truth about the cause of the Beirut port explosion. The statement calls on the Lebanese army to assume its responsibility and intervene quickly to arrest the criminals. Military commanders announced on social networks that their units will respond with gunfire against any suspects. And Lebanon's Interior Minister Bassem Marlawi said there was no prior information on potential violence during the rally.
We did not have any information on this matter. On the contrary, we have been in contact with the organizers of the protest for 2 days, and they reassure us that the demonstration is a peaceful one. The crime was using weapons to snipe people. That is the main issue, and it has nothing to do with the protests. This peaceful demonstration has been priorly organized by attorneys and elite who have a certain demand in link with politics or another issue that you are all aware of.
Foreign ministers of over 30 African states are participating in the 39th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union, which began Thursday in the Ethiopian capital. Over 2 days, delegates will analyse the functioning of the Africa Centres for Disease Control and Prevention and the 2022 roadmap concerning nutrition and food security in the region, among other issues. Under the slogan Arts, Culture and Heritage Levers for Building the Africa We Want, other issues to be addressed include the development of the 2063 agenda. The session comes prior to the 3rd mid-year coordination meeting between the African Union regional economic communities and regional mechanisms, which will take place on Saturday. At least 10 people were killed in an attack by an armed group on a mosque in western Niger. The defence minister reported that the heavily armed men on motorcycles attacked the mosque located in the prefecture of Bani Bangu in the Tilaberi region during prayers. According to the United Nations, this region is facing a major food crisis, with almost 600,000 people suffering from food insecurity due to unsafe conditions and recurrent attacks by insurgent groups against farmers and other civilians. Over 500 deaths have been recorded since the beginning of the year, and thousands have been displaced, fleeing the violence. A Taliban delegation arrived in Turkey on Thursday to address different issues, including humanitarian aid for the Central Asian country. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu met with his Afghan counterpart Ahmed Muttaqi, who arrived in Istanbul for talks and to clarify certain issues such as the operation of the Kabul International Airport, immigration and bilateral trade. The meeting is the first between the Turkish government and a high-ranking Taliban delegation, following talks a few days ago between the Turkish ambassador and Afghan officials in Kabul. Typhoon Kumpaso brought strong winds to the south coast of China on Wednesday, causing sea surges in Henan province just 1 week after Tropical Storm Lion passed through. The province saw heavy rains, which caused flooding across public roads. At least 320 flights at the country's main airports were cancelled. School activities were also suspended and tourist sites were closed as a safety measure. Warnings were issued by the provincial government of Henan, with locals taking the necessary measures before the impact of the typhoon. In the Philippines, the death toll resulting from Kumpaso has risen to 30 and another 14 people remain missing. Most of the fatalities occurred when they were trapped by mudslides, while others were swept away by the sudden rush of floodwaters, as reported by the National Council for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. The typhoon also affected northern Luzon, the country's largest and best-known island, generating torrential rains which caused landslides and flooding in the province of Benguet. The extreme weather forced the evacuation of over 10,000 people. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. This Thursday, Venezuelan Minister for Public Works and Services Néstor Rivera provided details of the recent sabotage against the country's power grid, which momentarily affected over 30% of Caracas. The attack comes as Venezuela gears up for regional elections in November and just days after the successful vote simulation.
There has been a new attack on the national electric system at least 1 hour ago. There was a breakdown of lines 1 and 2 of Papelón Convento substation and in the capital district, which caused Convento and Nodal substations to lose power, which also affected the substations of Cotamil, Santa Rosa Chacao and Magallanes.
En este momento todo el país se encuentra el sistema eléctrico nacional estabilizado.
At this moment, the entire country is stabilized. There is no nationwide impact, but there will remain 15 to 10% while we manage to repair the conductors. All the necessary equipment and logistics is here to restore them immediately.
President Nicolas Maduro announced that his government will bring Colombian President Ivan Duque before the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity surrounding the persecution and killings of Venezuelan citizens in Colombia.
For this case, and for thousands of other murders, and for more than 860 Venezuelan migrants who have disappeared in Colombia and are still missing, the state has decided to take action on the matter, and it's going to accuse Ivan Duque of crimes against humanity before the International Criminal Court for the persecution of Venezuelan migrants, for the promotion of hatred for the disappeared, for the forced disappearances of thousands of Venezuelan men and women who have disappeared in Colombia because of hatred.
Cuba is set to host the 11th session of the Joint Commission for Collaboration with the Eurasian Economic Commission in November. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel explained that the meeting will run from November 4th to 7th in Havana, after having participated via video conference in the meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council this Thursday, made up of the heads of state and government of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, as well as Moldova, Uzbekistan and Cuba, which have observer status to the organization. In his speech, the Cuban president pointed out that the joint action plan will be signed in Havana, the implementation of which will allow for greater collaboration between the Eurasian Economic Union and Cuba, both at the official level and in business circles. Women in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro protested against far-right President Jair Bolsonaro's decision to block a plan to distribute free sanitary products to disadvantaged girls and women. The move was met with outrage across the country, where period poverty is estimated to keep 1 in 4 girls out of school. Bolsonaro vetoed part of a bill that would have provided sanitary products at no charge to groups including homeless people, prisoners and teenage girls at state schools. It was expected to benefit 5.6 million women and girls and was part of a bigger package of laws to promote menstrual health, which has been approved by Brazilian legislators. In the Dominican Republic, a ruling is expected in the case linking Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht to a corruption scandal that spread over 10 countries across Africa and Latin America. The case surrounds accusations that Odebrecht paid $92 million in bribes between 2001 and 2014 in exchange for 17 infrastructure projects. 6 individuals stand accused of accepting the bribes, including 4 politicians, a businessman and a lawyer, and face potential sentences of up to 10 years in prison. All the accused have pleaded not guilty to the charges. President of Ecuador, Guillermo Lasso, admitted in a televised interview that he had concealed his wealth in tax havens. The Pandora Papers investigation, published by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalism, included President Lasso among the world leaders with offshore accounts. According to the data, Lasso was associated with 14 offshore companies and trusts in Panama, South Dakota and Delaware. Most of these companies were dissolved back in 2017, but 2 trusts in South Dakota are allegedly still in use. Ecuador's legislature has entrusted the Constitutional Commission to investigate whether the president broke the law by violating the Ethics Pact, which prohibits candidates and public officials from hiding resources or assets in tax havens. In Honduras, a political alliance has been established between the Liberty and Refoundation Party and the Saviour of Honduras Party as the country prepares for general elections at the end of November. The move sees the top opposition parties unite behind a single presidential candidate, the wife of former President Manuel Zelaya. Our correspondent Gilda Silvestrucci has the details.
The presidential formula of the Liberty and Refoundation Party took a turn. The presidential charter included Salvador Nasralla as first designated and Xiomara Castro as presidential candidate. Today, this act reflects the will of the people to overthrow the dictatorship of the current administration, all in one united front. In the negotiations, the Saviour of Honduras Party managed to secure 2 vice presidencies and the head of the National Congress.
We will rule together. Xiomara will be the president, but she will have me at her side as first designate, and we will make our decisions based on what is good for the people of Honduras, according to our government plans.
Both parties will work to deploy observers in all polling stations on the day of the vote to prevent similar acts as those seen in 2017, when they also ran as an alliance and denounced several irregularities in the electoral process.
How to succeed and guarantee victory is a difficult task, because the National Party is a dangerous force. There is no time to lose. We are 45 days away from the elections, and now it is necessary to unite in favor of Xiomara Castro de Zelaya.
According to polls, the 2 parties together have 30% of the population's support, representing an advantage over the current National Party administration with 20%.
What is important is that, together, we are going to take back the republic, the lawful state and constitutional order. We are going to generate our democracy and economy.
Honduras had 13 candidates running for president, with 2 political forces deemed as favorites seek to clash once again, the Liberty and Refoundation Party and the ruling National Party, the latter of which has dominated the political landscape for the past 12 years.
Gilda Silvestrucci, teleSUR Honduras.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador revealed this Thursday that an agreement was reached with the government of Cuba to acquire its Abdala vaccine against COVID-19. The Mexican head of state pointed out that the agreement is the result of the cooperative relationship with Cuba, especially in the medical field, and underlined that the 2 nations will continue to build on these relations. According to President López Obrador, the Cuban vaccine will initially be used to vaccinate those aged over 18 years old.
There is an agreement with the Cuban government to acquire vaccines in Cuba, but it has not yet been possible to materialize it. But we do have a cooperative relationship with Cuba, especially in the medical field, and we will continue working together. And when I say especially in the medical field, it is because this is one of the points, but not only in the medical field. Mexico has very good relations with the government of Cuba, relations of cooperation and international solidarity.
United States President Joe Biden said he hopes to solve the current national supply chain gridlock by keeping the country's most important ports open 24/7. After meeting the leaders of Los Angeles and Long Beach ports, the US President announced a package of emergency measures, including the uninterrupted operation of the ports, through which 40% of the world's containers move. Biden explained that adding more than 60 hours of port activity per week will alleviate the bottlenecks of recent months that have been damaging supply chains. Ships and container ships have been detained for weeks due to the pandemic. Biden expects these measures to overcome supply shortages and rising inflation. Studies in various countries have consistently documented that black women are dying of cervical cancer at several times the rate of white women, sparking calls for action. The studies backed by the World Health Organization reflected that 19 of the 20 countries with the highest burdens of the disease are in Africa. Globally, cervical cancer is the fourth most common cancer among women, with the human papillomavirus as the main cause. The African continent is also suffering from inequitable access to the papillomavirus vaccine, which has led to black women being disproportionately affected. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the many fault lines where health inequities persist among marginalized communities around the world.
Racial discrimination may no longer be legal in most countries, but it's still widespread in many countries. The medical technologies that were developed from this injustice have been used to perpetuate further injustice because they have not been shared equitably around the world.
Burundi received its first COVID-19 vaccines on Thursday, which were donated by China's national pharmaceutical group Sinopharm. The East African country, one of the last in the world to begin to inoculate its population, received 500,000 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine at a ceremony in the economic capital, Bujumbura. The Health Ministry reported that the vaccination campaign would begin next week and would initially target healthcare providers, people aged over 60 or those with underlying health problems, as well as people travelling abroad and any volunteers. The country is also awaiting the arrival of doses from the World Bank at the end of the month. The vaccine drive accompanies other measures introduced as part of a new 6-month COVID-19 response plan in the country of 12 million people.
China highly appreciates the measures taken by the Burundian government against COVID-19 and will follow its efforts to accompany Burundian friends in the fight.
These vaccines are licensed by the WHO, and the ambassador also pointed out that vaccine does not replace hygiene and barrier measures. This is very important. I would also like to thank the Chinese people for other forms of cooperation in the field of health.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.